Hello! This is a completely different kind of video to anything we usually put up. We just thought we'd have a little chat. So I think the idea here was some kind of series called like An English Man and an Irish Woman Discuss, or An English Boy and an Irish Girl Talk About, and then whatever the subject matter would be for a particular video. So here we are. Yeah. Recording.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to have you back on the channel. I still need to upload about 4 more episodes of our Divinity Original Sin stuff before I catch up with where you are, and then I'll start putting links to your channel in the episode descriptions. It's like, hey, if you want to go see things from Cassandra's perspective, here's our channel over here, you know.
Yeah, take a look. I'm always playing other games as well, uploading stuff. There may be one video in each category of games, but still something of a project I'm working on right now. Besides,
so somewhere there's a first-person shooter turn-based MOBA hybrid.
I'm not that good at first-person shooters. Well, let's not go there.
Okay. So,
yeah.
While we chat, I'm just tidying up NPC portraits and artwork for Saturday night's game.
Which is going to be so much fun.
I hope so. I don't like the kind of question mark I heard there, but okay, yes, sure. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to enjoy it.
No,
hope
in
you
all
guys
honesty,
do as well.
It has been a lot of fun, to be honest. And like the most unexpected things tend to happen, especially when we have basically one person who has no idea what they're doing, or what they should be doing anyway.
Isn't that most of the player characters at the moment with the memory issues they're having?
That is very true, but then I would argue that most of the time I have my head. No, the investigator should have her head on her shoulders at all times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Both figuratively and literally.
I should jolly well hope so.
You wouldn't want to lose your only investigator, now would you?
Let's hope not. Okay, so here's a discussion, topic I came up with. Last night, when I was getting ready to go to bed, I thought, hey, we could talk about this. And this may be a really dumb thing to do, okay? And if at any point it turns out that, hey, let's just stop recording because the conversation's going somewhere we don't want to share, that's fine as well, you know? Mm-hmm. So you're very lucky at the moment in that you've managed to get a... Let me go back on that No. Let's not. So you're very lucky in that you've managed to get some work as an extra on a TV series recently, all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
right.
Good for you. Well done.
Not that you know anything about it.
A while back, you got in touch and we had a conversation. You were feeling very incensed about how in a lot of old Hollywood films, people of Eastern ethnicity were just played by white people. And it seemed pretty insensitive.
I wouldn't be the only one who feels that way. I mean,
obviously not.
Like at its very core, it just doesn't make sense. On an industry point of view, yeah, it probably does make sense. But then that just makes it even worse. I mean, it's all for the money. It's all for rules that just are ridiculous. And then the people who are actually watching it, it's like, why is there a white person? And a really good example of that is what happened with Ghost in the Shell. Like, the storyline is good.
That's quite recent as well, isn't it?
No, that is very recent. Like, a lot of people have been talking about this movie because, believe it or not, a lot of people have know about Ghost in the Shell. They have encountered anime in some way, and most of the time, Ghost in the Shell is their first...
It's quite a popular, well-known one that people reference a lot. And people mention it in a way that implies they expect everyone to know what it is immediately.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the original one.
Not absolutely. So am I there. I haven't
So
seen either.
when they came out with this, it was, you know, confusing at first, but everybody knew at that point that, oh yeah, Scarlett Johansson is gonna be starring as, the main character, the Major in it. And sure,
She's
that's
going to
fine.
be
And
starring as some Chinese white chick
she not
or
Chinese,
Japanese.
Japanese,
Yeah.
Japanese. Get it right. Get it right.
Okay, sorry.
But you know, as basically what happened was, as I watched the movie, it made sense. I mean, it actually, sure, it was not the same as the original storyline, as I would argue, but it was a nice refreshing take on it. That they would say, oh, she was originally a girl who'd ran away from home, and then they kidnapped her. They turned her into a,
Wait,
a cyborg.
I thought they made her as a robot and then had to explain to her that she wasn't human because she thought she was or something.
No,
Okay.
you see, what basically, did you even watch that movie?
No, I just saw a few trailers and there wasn't a lot of information there, to be honest. So I will
No.
appreciate anything you can offer to enlighten me on this.
Well, clearly, from the very beginning of the movie, everybody knows that the Major is, as she goes by name, Marion, I think. She is definitely human in,
Hmm.
well, her mind, or
That's
soul, so to speak. But
that's a Muslim
uh,
name. Okay.
Marion,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Marion or something. It was always said so quickly that I couldn't figure out what it was
Oh,
until
you mean like the original Resident Evil movie where none of the characters speak. The name Alice is spoken once in the entire film. None of the other characters have names, and we're not even sure that Alice is the one who's being called Alice because there's another woman in the room at the time who could be being spoken to.
What language were
It's
you watching that movie in?
English. It was shit. No character names were ever spoken, and there was virtually no plot. It was rubbish. But anyway, back to what you were talking about.
Back to what I was talking about. Basically, you could tell, everybody wasn't trying to hide the fact that she was human. She was just, she was just like a brain. I'm gonna just say it out right now, a brain in a robotic shell. But
Hence the
like
title.
they basically made sure that she couldn't remember anything about herself. So it made it so they were guaranteed a robotic soldier, really. As long as the thing about, memories is what makes most of us human, as long as we remember what it is. And then,
Is
that,
this
of
something
course,
like the personality, the humanity begins to win through and memories come back and the character realizes, wait a minute, all these things. Kind of like
I was,
Robocop in a way.
yeah, kind
The
of like
original Robocop, not the crappy remake.
Yeah, kind of like that. I mean, like when you know who you are, when you remember who you are, when your past and stuff, it kind of shapes you. When you lose all that, you're kind of wondering, what kind of person was I? Do I even have a personality? And then when they find out later, it's like, oh, turns out I was a jerk. I guess I am a jerk. But back to the story at hand. Basically, they weren't trying to hide the fact that she was human, but I'm starting to lose track here. But
Well, in that case, finish the current train of thought and I'll bring up something that I wanted to say.
no, what did you want to say?
I wanted to say, you know how I said this conversation could go in any kind of direction at all? It certainly didn't go in any for ones I anticipated, which is fine.
If this goes awry, I'm blaming you, by the way.
Well, let's just say we haven't got to the point I wanted to actually bring up yet, interestingly.
Yeah, that tends to happen, doesn't it?
What I was going to say is that at the time, you were kind of annoyed that I think like some of your fellow students had said to you, hey, look at this is ridiculous, or it had been brought to your attention.
No,
And it was like a fresh thing that had just come to you, and you were like, "Hey, I'm actually really angry about this," right?
Well, back then I didn't see the reason why I brought it up back then was because I didn't realize it. I mean, like I didn't watch that many movies that involved that kind of thing, and pretty much at our age, at our present day, we do get a lot of
Outrage culture.
movies that do justice to that, like Pacific Rim. Obviously,
Hmm.
the lady is Japanese. She's speaking Japanese, and she's all around Japanese, except for the fact she was raised by an American. But it's more like I didn't realize they were doing this back then in
Oh
Hollywood.
hell yeah! I mean, well, look.
And some of the movies, like you could blatantly see that this person was white, but was trying to act like an Asian
Mm,
person. It was
it was
borderline
terrible.
offensive. Borderline
Well,
offensive.
you got a couple of things there. First off, at that point, Hollywood was incredibly full of nepotism, right? It was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was it was very Jewish, right? Lots of Jewish people in running Hollywood, and they'd be like, oh, my cousin, he needs this role. We'll just do that for him. Almost like the way the mafia kind of is like keeping it in the family. But another thing I was going to say is, so now that you've had the opportunity to appear in a television series as an extra, playing a character of your own ethnic origin, do you feel that, in a way, this is like your little bit of revenge against the system, going, improving things, making things a bit better, making up for things in the past that you disagree with?
Um,
That's what I was going to bring up as a topic for conversation, of all things.
yeah, I tend to go in like go completely off the track with that. But
Oh, that's all right.
the TV show that I'm actually just being an extra in is a TV show that basically involves people of all kinds of ethnicity. So
Hmm.
like we've got quite a lot of Africans. We've got like Irish-born African. We got Middle Eastern, some Indians, some the Filipinos. We have also got quite a few Chinese people, and you can see it when you watch the show. It's full of people of all kinds of
Hmm.
um, all kinds of nationalities. Granted, a lot of the main characters are white, except for the main character, which is Sunny. So yeah, this TV show I'm in is into the
Okay,
Badlands.
we got a new category of main character. It's main character now.
Main character. It's like
Absolutely.
they're so reoccurring that they could be considered main characters as well.
Hmm.
But it's basically one of those shows where you don't really have the focus on just one character. You've got a couple of them, you know.
Yeah. Kind
So
of like Firefly had 7 main characters, and it was hard to say which 2 or 3 were actually the main characters because no one really took much of a backseat role very often there.
yeah,
And that was nice in a way.
that was very nice.
Hmm.
So basically, it's quite nice to have a TV show like this, which involves a lot of people,
Well,
of mixed. Yeah.
what I could see of the trailer, it looked like a kind of post-apocalyptic thing, and there was a cult, group of people in some kind of, shared accommodation. And I got the impression, okay, this is either a religious organization or a cult. And essentially, in a post-apocalyptic setting, just gathering together all the people who survived and are available, you could get a very mixed bunch of people, and that's totally fine. So the way I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I don't think it's good that there are a bunch of people of different ethnicities for the sake of them being varied ethnicities, but in the context of the story that's being told, it's totally fine and makes a lot of sense, and I like
You
that.
really would have to watch the show in order to know. Granted, in the first season, I could be spoiling a few things here. There wasn't a lot of focus on other you know there wasn't a lot of focus on other people of different no ethnicities, but like as far as I am aware, now that we're going into season 3, there's going to be more and more involvement of other races.
Okay, and that's totally fine. Um, what I was going to say is, for me, it's less about the the cultural identity and stuff that's associated with this group, and more of the role they would play in the story and why these people are here. And I'm totally fine with that, right? It's part of the vision that's being presented, right?
Hmm.
I don't see it as like a kind of racial identity thing. I see it as the characters in this story. It's like if I was writing, say, a story set in ancient China, right, really ancient China, I would be stretched to, say, put in a South American, like an Aztec or an Incan or something, right? So you can tell sometimes when something feels a bit shoehorned in, you know, and um, I'm not very familiar with this TV series yet, but as long as it doesn't feel forced, I'd probably be okay with it, you know?
Hmm. Well, I'm just getting into season two, trying to catch up
Trying
on
to
what I
find out what you're involved in.
yeah, do some research and stuff. But
Hey, research is good. It shows you're showing an interest, and maybe the casting directors and stuff will pay attention to that, you know.
hopefully, I've just apparently got a new role tomorrow, and I'm due in for a fitting at 10 a.m. Way.
Hey, wait, that's late, a lot later than some of the other recent starts, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot later. But that, you know what, that could change in a drop of a hat, really.
Yeah.
They tend to do that. But it doesn't seem forced, the whole mixed thing. I mean, like,
Hmm.
sure, they don't have a lot of lines to say. Sure, they a lot of people tend to die on set. That's basically what a lot of Into the Badlands is.
Die in character,
Die.
right? Not
No,
die.
not die in real life. I'm pretty sure we'd have a lawsuit filed against us
Yeah.
against the company if that
It,
happened.
it'll become one of those cursed productions, like every version of Superman or something like that.
Hey, you never know. So, yeah, they don't have much of a role, but they are there. It's not trying to. Definitely isn't trying to shove it in your face by saying, "Oh, look, it's this Chinese person is talking. Oh, look,
Hmm.
there's this white. Sorry,
That always
not
feels weird when you see them making a huge effort. Like, look, we've included this kind of person now. It's like, okay, fine. Now, what about the actual merits of that character as a character? You know?
which reminds me of the Matrix series. I mean, they did include quite a few people in it, didn't they? That were of they were Chinese, they were black.
I must admit to never having watched any of the Matrix movies. I got to see the first few minutes of one of them, and it looked absolutely terrible. And I thought, okay, I know this is the second one, but this is shit.
Did you see the first one at
It's
least?
like, why are they just... There's people stomping about in giant robots, getting bored, talking to each other, and there's a pointless fucking orgy, at which point it's like, did someone take drugs before writing the script for this thing? Because it's like a music video. It was terrible.
You watched the trailer, didn't you?
No, it was on television one night, and I saw a bit of it. I know that it's stupid and people fly up in the air and the camera rotates around them for no fucking reason. It makes me want to punch my fist through the screen and say, stop being stupid! Because that doesn't happen in real life and it just looks rubbish.
I will be honest. Your your opinion would not be shared.
What, you think people fly up in the air and the world rotates around them in real life?
I'm just saying that a lot of people quite like it and quite like a lot of movies that you hate, and then they hate your movies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. People are allowed to have their own taste because if they didn't, it would be a very boring world if we were all the same. I mean,
No,
hey, if
fair
I
enough.
was you and you were me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would just be one of us talking to ourselves because I'd be exactly where your body is or you'd be exactly where my body is because we would be exactly the same person. You know.
Hey, I talk to myself too,
I know
right?
you do. I do it as well. We all do. Some of us less than others.
There you go.
It's
So
part of being alive.
part of being alive, indeed. Yeah, kind of got off the track there again. Basically, like myself, I didn't really watch the rest of the Matrix movies. It was just the first one that I really liked. But I did notice that they did include, like, who was it again? Can't even remember. It was quite a famous Chinese actor who was
Oh, please, not Burt Kwok. He's legendary.
Burt Kwok. No, I wouldn't know about Burt Kwok.
Burt Kwok. You don't know about Burt Kwok. He only played like every Chinese man on Radio 4 from like the 60s through to the 90s.
No,
You
that
know.
is not Burt Kwok. I mean, it's a martial arts. I mean, it's a martial
Oh,
arts.
like Jackie Chan or something, or one of the
You're telling me you
more
don't
obscure
know?
ones.
You don't know what Matrix is all about?
The Matrix is about idiots shooting guns, and what's his name, who was in the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, standing still, looking hard, and that's about it, isn't it? It's to do with people being in some kind of drug reality, not realizing they're in a computer game, and the computer not being real or something.
I'm not sure if I should, make
And
an
then-
effort to tell you about it, because right now, like, first of all, you are not quite, but you've got some points, but you're pretty much off the mark. Plus,
And then he does things like exploiting game glitches to defeat the game and show it. It's very kind of the never-ending story kind of situation.
all right, I'll take it back. You're way off the mark. In fact, you know what? I'm not gonna. I don't think I can tell you the whole story about Matrix.
Well, you
No
did
way.
ask. Okay,
No, I
so
can't. It's
so
just like-
here's the funny question: did my version of it sound more fun? In a that would be completely crazy kind of way.
It would be like the bathtub time machine kind of movie, which I will say
Bathtub time machine.
I think it was. Yeah.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah. Or what was it? Loathing in Las Vegas or something like that.
I didn't think there was time travel in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I thought that was like some kind of gangster movie.
It was weird, okay?
Okay.
It was weird. For me, anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, your description of it is much more like that. Which is why I'm saying it's off the mark.
See, as far as I understand, it's some bloke called Neo or Leo in a black trench coat who stands still and something whooshes past him, and then Bill and Ted goes like, "Whoa, dude!" Except he doesn't do that anymore.
What are you talking about? Jesus.
You haven't seen some of his early films, have you?
Oh, man.
Bill and Ted's
Wait,
Excellent
you watched some
Adventure,
of those
Bill and
really
Ted's Bogus
ridiculous-
Journey, and
No, you really watched some of those really ridiculously put together videos, didn't you? Like, yes, I know Keanu Reeves was part of what was a co-star in that weird
it was
drug
terrible stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically a rip-off of Doctor Who from what I saw, and I don't know why I sat through it.
Which movie is this now?
The first Bill and Ted film, where they went travelling in a phone box that was blatantly the TARDIS.
Oh, right.
The one where they come talk to themselves and say, "Hey, if you're really us from the future, which number are we thinking of right now? 69, dudes!" Just terrible, terrible stuff. It was like,
Yeah, no.
why did
there's
this
a
get...
reason why I did not, make it through the whole movie. No, you watch one of those horribly mashed up videos. No.
Which
No, that's
horribly
not-
mashed up videos?
What? You probably watched up a mashup, like a parody mashup of Matrix and Bill and Ted.
No, it was the beginning of Matrix 2. It was just really boring and uninspired.
I will say you're a little confusing sometimes.
Is that a bad thing? Or just a confusing one?
It does really depend. Like,
Okay.
in conversation wise, you could completely derail the conversation. And then we'd be like, awkward.
We've derailed it a few times already. It'll be fine without us. I'm still just removing loads of writing from pictures for Saturday night's game.
And I'm just trying to upload some more pictures onto Instagram, which I failed to do for the past 3 weeks.
Just to be clear, these aren't pictures of food you haven't eaten because you're anorexic, right? Because I thought that was all people use Instagram for, according
What?
to jokes and spoofs of celebrity Instagram culture.
Oh, buddy, let's not go there.
It
Who the
could be a
hell said I
picture
was
of anything.
anorexic?
What?
Never mind. Jesus.
Nobody said you were anorexic. It's like all these young women who apparently buy food, take a photo of it, stick it on Instagram, then don't eat the food. And you're like, what is wrong with you?
Is that what they do?
Yeah. It's a cliche at this point. Actually, that reminds me of something
I'm
amusing.
very new to Instagram, and I have no idea what goes on behind people's daily
Camera
habits of
lenses.
uploading stuff.
I did say it's a cliche. That reminds me of something funny. Um, are you familiar with the terrible old Flash Gordon movie? That was terribly
Oh God.
hilarious. And
The theme just sticks in my head, and it's like,
yeah,
what part of the theme?
the first time I watched it, when Brian Blessed was shouting at the Hawkmen, first wave dive, second wave dive, and third wave dive, it was being played on a bad telly, and I heard, "First wave die!" And they all flew down and got shot to bits by lasers, and then he shouted, "Second wave die!" It
Oh.
was, yeah. But there was a 2012 television series remake of Flash Gordon,
Oh
and
dear.
basically Ming the Merciless in that was a Tony Blair knockoff copycat, really blatantly, even though it was an American series. And the reason it sticks in my head, apart from being absolutely terrible, is one of the two lead actresses was called Karen Cliche. I'm not kidding. Okay, so I don't know what her real name was, but that was her equity name.
Oh, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
God, like
Talk
I
about
don't
getting
know if
typecast.
I don't know if I should blame her parents or the writers.
Nah, she probably just needed a... It's like some guy when he went to Equity to get his name as an actor, and they said, oh, he said, here's my name, it's a bit unusual, and they said, yeah, sorry mate, you can't have that. We've got one other member who's been around for quite a few decades who has that name, and normally, given his age and the fact that he's nearly retired, we'd ask him to change it so that you could come in and have that Equity name. But he's the head of the Equity Committee who gets to decide what names people have, so you're going to have something else.
Ugh. Oh, the horror,
Yeah.
man. I remember just the other day, I think I was talking with one of the other extras, and we were making a joke about names and having to change them. And basically, I actually don't quite remember how the conversation went, but it was somewhere along the lines of, "We're not gonna have to change our names, right? They're not gonna change our names, are they?" And I said,
TV series don't even seem to list the names of extras at this point anymore.
"No."
It's really weird. The credits are just really truncated.
I don't think, like, could you imagine sitting through a really, really long version of all the um of the credits, like with all the extras in it, and then watching while watching a Marvel movie, like that would be just terrible torture.
Um,
You do know Marvel movies have these shots at the very end, right?
yeah, I watched one of them. It was confusing, to say the least, and it made me wonder at what point it was going to achieve any sort of storyline or plot, and it didn't.
Really? In your eyes, that bad?
It was Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just like a load of stunts and jokes put together, with not a lot holding it together beyond that. It could have been a lot better, let's put it that way. I liked it, but it could have been better.
Well, you could have clashes with my parents. They absolutely loved it, including my sister.
Hmm.
They absolutely loved it. Don't know why.
I don't know why either. Ah.
I certainly didn't mind, really.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There was an old Cowboy Western film, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's rather unique among films regarding its credits.
Ooh.
It's
What about its credits?
it's a 3.5 hour long film, right?
Uh-huh.
But the opening credits don't appear until about an hour and a half in. I'm not kidding.
Oh dear.
It's just long and rambling and confuses a lot of people, but apparently worth watching if you watch the whole thing.
So they say. Oh my God, I don't think I'd want to now.
Well, sorry to have
On
put
a
you off
normal
it,
day,
whatever it is.
Normally, I don't watch that many movies anyway, and it's only like TV shows only ever come up if they catch my attention, like Grimm. Otherwise, I rarely watch them.
there's a lot of TV shows at the moment that are very popular that are just basically people walking around in suits. It's kind of like the whole Buffy thing of we're going to keep the actual interesting fun stuff and action. Like, in a way, that's actually like kind of like Greek tragedy. You know, all the important stuff happens off stage, then characters just appear and moan about it, you know. And you'd have things like virtually every fight in Buffy, you'd get the first 2 or 3 seconds of the fight, it would cut to another scene, then you'd come back to like the last punch or kick being thrown, and they'd get back to the drama, which was a good way to just prevent it being like all about people beating each other up, you know. But it did occasionally make you feel, you know what, there's a lot of stuff being missed out here that doesn't need to be missed out, and it seems to be getting a bit gratuitous now, the lack of the stuff the audience is excited about and not getting to see.
I think that falls under a very specific trope, although I'm not quite sure what that is.
The keeping the action off stage, and then the drama being the people commenting about it and how people react to it and respond to it. That goes back to, you know, Greek plays, ancient Greek plays, and not so much Roman plays, admittedly.
Obviously, it's kind of interesting how they do that. Before I didn't understand it until I basically was on set, and while all the extras were on set, we had this. They don't always use every single one, so sometimes like some of us will be picked out, and then the others will be the others will be
okay. You guys go have lunch or something, yeah.
Placed aside, and literally, you know, when they said you know, just stand to the side, we'd just be standing there watching the whole thing play out. Which, during one of the days, I was fortunate enough to be standing behind one of the screens where, you know, they were recording it, and you could
flats
see it on the screen. And what I was seeing was 2 cameras, one pointing at the actress's face, so you could see all her expressions, and there was a second camera pointing at side profiles of two characters who were talking to each other, herself and I think supposedly her dad, her father. And like, it was only then that I kind of understood how they switched from one scene to another while they were having that one...
blatantly multiple cameras, you know.
Yeah, blatantly multiple cameras. And they did without...
Not always.
They did all this without, any, you know, of the equipment being in the shot, or all they needed were the extras in the background.
No, not always. This is the best way to do it, but I have seen terrible examples of it being done the other way, where it's like, we'll shoot all of the scenes from one camera, all of the parts of the scene from one camera angle, then shoot all of the other parts from the other camera angle. This is how bad this stuff gets sometimes, right? And I'm going to preface this by saying it was an episode of Neighbours, so you know what to expect, okay?
Oh, God. You know I don't watch it.
Okay, to put it into context, neither do I anymore, thankfully, but basically terrible Australian soap opera with a long-standing reputation, okay? There's a knock on the door, and a man holding a teacup, or a coffee cup, you know, a cup with his drink in, goes to the door to answer it, okay? And it being badly made, they insist on having the camera focusing on the face of the speaking character every time a character is speaking. So he opens the door, there's 2 of his mates outside, 2 men, yeah? And it's raining. Okay, so there's rain falling on them. You know, he said, cut to a shot from the outside, the coffee cup is not in his hand, he says hello to them, and it's not raining on them. Cut to a shot of him inside, holding his hand as if he's holding the coffee cup in front of him, them outside, being rained on again, saying hello. And it went like this for the whole conversation, and the coffee cup kept appearing and disappearing in his hand really erratically throughout the conversation from the exterior shots where it could be seen. And every time it was an outside shot looking in at him, it wasn't raining. And every time it was an inside shot of him looking at them, it was raining. Oh, and I was like, why did they use this footage?
Wow. That's really inconsistent. Really, really inconsistent.
Now, it was light rain. It was just like drizzle. But it was obvious enough that it was there, you know.
Well, it's a soap opera, right? So you
Yeah,
would.
I'm thinking
I don't
probably
know how. I
budget
don't
and
even
time
understand
constraints.
soap operas, to be honest. Like what defines a soap opera? Is it the
Uh,
kind of
Bad
continuity
acting,
or?
continuity, some sort of storyline, um, generally bad acting and budget and egotistical cast members throwing their weight around and really inconsistent characters being written out because they refuse to do something off screen or something. I don't know, but just
I certainly did not enjoy any such soap operas, especially God, I've encountered way too many when visiting other people's houses. Like their mothers are always watching a soap opera, and it's always people talking in a on the street or in a kitchen over a cup of tea or
or
Jesus.
or in the case of EastEnders, threatening to beat each other up in some motor car repair shop or something like in a garage.
Oh wow, too many bad experiences.
Yeah, you fixed my motor or what? Ah dear.
Oh God. Like um, damn it. I think it's just something about those cameras just tick me off really.
Hmm.
Like it's not quite done with a handheld camcorder.
Oh, you know what? Actually, that was one of the beauties of the bill. The bill wasn't really so much a soap opera as it was a kind of a police procedural, so it was about them doing their job. And every single episode in the series of the history of the series for like 30 or 40 years was always shot on handheld cameras, and the camera was never still. It was always like moving back and forth ever so slightly or up and down, just that slight drift to indicate the person holding it is breathing and stuff like that.
Oh man, how do people not get motion sickness from it?
They actually did a really good job of it. Like, running downstairs with their, running downstairs backwards, filming two people coming downstairs having a conversation and stuff. The cameraman must have been really good. But it, it,
Wow.
it became like a kind of trademark of the show.
Yeah, well, it's a lot like, Cloverfield, which is a lot of people know it by the handheld camera of people running away and screaming with.
Apparently that's based on one of the Call of Cthulhu novels or short stories. Like there's something horror, but I
I
can't
have
remember
no
what it is.
idea. All I remember is just people screaming and running and the camera shaking like hell and it did that so damn much that I had no idea what was going on. Like,
Well,
wait, what's attacking now? Where are they
apparently
running
it's
from?
a giant monster that's also invisible, or something ridiculous. I'm
Yeah,
not
as far
kidding,
as
it
I'm
is
concerned,
apparently
it was
invisible.
yeah,
I haven't
except
seen
for
it
the
either.
little ones, except for the very little ones. Yeah, that was just a horrible movie in general.
Okay.
I nearly threw up in my mouth. Oh God. But like there are some videos out there on YouTube where I'm pretty sure a lot of people know if
Wait,
they.
there are videos on YouTube?
Oh, shut up!
I mean, where do you think people are going to be watching this,
Who knows? It could have its own website. What do you think?
Yeah, there's probably like some guy who's like monetizing all my
Well,
videos
this
on some
this
illegal channel or something dodgy.
the one who's managing this channel is probably does have his own website. I mean, like he gets a lot of views as and what he's well known for are the videos on Assassin's Creed, like literally people doing parkour in Assassin's Creed attire, really.
See, I always get annoyed when people call it that because I'm just used to it being called free running. I'm like, free running sounds so much nicer.
Parkour makes it sound fancier.
It just makes it sound pretentious and French,
Well, there you go.
which makes you want to like punch someone's head in and tell them to stop pretending
You're
to be
really all
French.
about punching people in the head, aren't you, right now? Like
Um,
today, you're just all
maybe
about punching
today.
people.
Maybe today.
Maybe today.
Not every day.
Just a tiny bit. More so than I am, anyway.
Evidently, regardless of things that were said earlier before the call started, to others not in the conversation.
Good God. Uh, probably should have done this earlier.
Probably.
But then you would have, heard my little sister talk, complaining and talking about, and then me shouting over a long distance, apparently.
Well, hey, life gets like that sometimes.
Oh, life. I told a friend of mine, life is like everybody's wife. She's always there, and she's a bit of a bitch.
Evidently.
But wow, we went right off topic, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Actually, we've been talking for about half an hour now. Is that a good kind of length for an initial conversation?
I think it is, especially with your upload time.
Oh God, yeah. So half an hour. That's going to be about.
Besides, you are the only, you are the only one with the
It's
with
going
the
to be about
copy of.
5 to 10 hours of upload time. Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I'm going to run it through the file size condensation thingy.
How
Was it-
much does that help?
Well, let's just say that I got a file down from 11.4 gigabytes to about 3 gigabytes with it. So it helps.
That's pretty decent. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Oh boy.
So yeah, I'll do that after the call, and we can. So yeah, okay, let's wrap it up here. And what was I?
Yeah. I should probably go back to uploading my pictures. I've done a whole load of new images. New drawings while I was doing extras. The thing about being an extra is you tend to wait a lot.
A lot. Yes.
A lot.
Oh yes.
So plenty of time. Thankfully, because I always have my iPad with me, I was never really bored. Just tired, really. Very, very tired. All right.
Okay. Well,
So,
we'll take the opportunity to say bye for now then, and chat again in the
Okay.
next one.
chat again in the next one.
Oh.
All right.
Would you like a link to your channel in the description for this one?
That would be a great idea.
Cool. See you soon then. Bye for now.
See you soon. Bye.